Good afternoon and welcome to the Momentum Mindset Show, where we're talking everything personal development, coaching, health, and the law. I'm your host, Jay, here with co-host Janine.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Please join us on Facebook, where we can be found at the Momentum Mindset Show. And if you want to call in and be part of the show, we would love to hear from you. It's 888-565-1470. And if being on live radio is not your thing, no problem. Send us your comments and we will interact with you on Facebook.
Let's create some momentum.
Yes.
I have this on my... And welcome.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome. It's Friday. Yay! You know what? I'm going to confess to everybody. Well, first of all, I am your co-host, Janine Davis, and the fine gentleman here will introduce himself adequately. I just want to fit in real quick before I forget that I'm super excited for the weekend because I'm going to sleep in tomorrow. These are the things that excite me. Sleep excites me.
All right, everybody. I am your co-host, Jay Farrow, and I will not be sleeping in tomorrow as I am going to be working. I don't know if I've told you this, but since the last time we've done a show, I had a birthday.
Yes. Now we can properly celebrate you on the air, ladies and gentlemen. July 7th was the birth of Jay Farrow. But for those of us who have been around him for a while, you know that it's not just the day that needs to be celebrated. It's actually, in fact, the entire month. So that's pretty much the direction we're going in here. Because of COVID, we haven't been able to do our usual really fun activities surrounding the birthday, like going out and having a really lovely lunch with everyone in the office, or going to play like laser tag or something really cool like that. But God willing, we will get to all of these things in short order.
Well, if you would have kept up with my Facebook posts.
Yeah, that's a bone of contention now. I will confess to everybody, and Jay knows this now, I've kind of been a little removed from social media. I don't know. It's just not resonating with me right now. But yeah, I will certainly get back on. And Jay, you know, I support everything you do. So, you know.
Wow. So I am a year older. And
how does it feel? You're actually a really great age. You're 45. I feel 45. Like there's something so wonderful about that particular number. I can't, you know.
I kind of like it.
Right? How do you feel?
Oh, I feel great. I did go on a little bit of a vacation, a little bit of business trip, all around the southeastern United States. And got to see how the rest of the country is handling this crisis and this COVID thing, and
this worldwide pandemic.
I had something important to say and I forgot it.
It'll come back to you.
Oh yes, my Facebook posts. So I was writing the other night, actually last night, but you didn't catch it, so I'll fill you in. Everybody's talking about getting back to normal, and what I connected with last night is every single day is chaos. Everything around us is chaos. I mean, if we could see and actually pay attention to how different every single day actually is, even if we drive the same streets, even if we get up at the same time, every single day is so different. There's just some consistency to the chaos. And so when the chaos gets less consistent, then it seems chaotic. And we're all searching for, to go back to normal, which was chaos. So what I was thinking last night was, we're just looking to create some more consistent chaos in our lives. And what will happen, I suspect, is it's going to be different than what it was before. I don't know if the world's ever going to be any different. But I said in my post yesterday, I even said to you yesterday, this COVID crisis has been all things to all people. For some people who lost a job, they maybe come to the realization that they never should have been there in the first place. Thanks, Glennie,
Oh,
for writing.
Glennie,
I
that's
appreciate
nice
that.
to acknowledge.
Some people got closer to their family. Some people got further away from their family. We got some phone calls of some people that want to go through the divorce during or because of this, because of the COVID.
Yeah. Oh,
You know,
yeah.
some people started the shutdown and the stay-at-home orders and staying on their couch and ordering in every single day, and they're now drunk themselves into a massive stupor, of which they need to clean themselves out. I mean, and then the other side of it, some people started in a stupor and then ended up starting a business, is now is thriving in their life. A lot of people have lost jobs. A lot of people have, the whole thing has shifted. But when I say it's been all things to all people, it's because I think that even as painful as it might have been for some, it's only for their growth that the things that happened. Possibly this was the greatest thing that ever happened to them. Maybe not for the people who died, but maybe even for the people that, and I know some of them who even got sick, who said this was a scamdemic until they got sick. And then they said, listen, this is very, very serious, and, take precautions. What I found during this is that I don't do my life like I did my life before. And I think that I'm in the greatest place that I've ever been. I mean, I don't go to the gym anymore. I work out at home. I had created a home gym. I've now been cooking for myself again. I have recreated things that I do with my fiance. I write more, certainly on Facebook, which you haven't seen. I've been playing more piano. I've been writing more music, and I think that the legal work that I've been doing for the last 5 months has been some of the most exceptional that I've done in my entire career.
Right.
And I've gone through hell in the last 5 months. So for me, it was not a rosy 5 months, and it's still on a daily basis is challenging. But there's been a shift. I don't know if you've experienced this, Janine, but I have. Ever since we started working with Ray Stacia in the office.
Well,
Yes, I said the word Ray Stacia. We'll get into what that means in a second.
Yeah.
It's working with, we have working with someone who works with quantum physics in order to neutralize and energize our office in such a way that they even get the plans of our building, and they look for water underneath our building and all kinds of things that then they move certain things around, and they unlock energies that have been built up in certain particular areas. And this is all based on quantum physics.
So I want to acknowledge you for a second here. Yes, it's true. I haven't been reading your posts, or anybody else for that matter. But one of the things that I really, and I started, before we started the show, I said, I want to talk about partnership. But so you didn't answer me. So here we go. But I want to acknowledge you that as a partner, oh, okay. Sorry, I just got something. You are very open to the ideas that I bring you in terms of working with something like energy. Most people would look at me like I'm a total nut, but because it's linked to science, it gives you, I think, or it could give anybody sort of a better anchor. My point is that I want to acknowledge you for being upfront and open, and willing to go extra. So
But
I thank you for that, and to into all of these things that
I'll acknowledge you for the way that you present them, and the way that it's presented to me is that it fits within my box, or one of my boxes. But to your point, 5 years ago, I had 4 food groups. I think two of them were legal.
For those of you who don't know Jay's story, sorry, but that's actually really funny.
So I had my thing about people who hug trees and vegetarians and people that shopped at Whole Foods, and I mean, if I couldn't order it, it didn't exist as a food group. I mean, there's a pizza and chicken wings and uh, salt. That was it. Maybe I don't know how many food groups there are, but salt was one of them. And basically, over time, I've learned. I was never raised a very spiritual guy. So God wasn't really in my house. So I as I got older, I saw the value of spirit, but faith was a gift that I was yet to receive. And yet, over time, I have reconciled spiritual and science being two sides of the same coin.
Well, it's interesting that you should say that, because when you actually introduced me to quantum physics, I had no idea, and I had kind of pretty much written off science for a myriad of other reasons. Not because I didn't always find it very, very interesting, but because my interests are predominantly in another area. When you introduced quantum physics to me, I was riveted. And one of the reasons I was so riveted is because I was like, look at all these people doing math to explain God. How fascinating. And it really resonated with me. I really just got it from that perspective. So to me, quantum physics does converge the spiritual and the scientific, very much so.
And on a deeper level, it's God explaining himself through himself. But that was really, really deep, and you'd have to do some homework for that last statement. So, but I have another saying, that as we started this transformational journey, because I when it became too painful to in different stages of this transformation process to stay where I was at, I was willing to become uncomfortable and do things that I wasn't willing to do yesterday. I said that I would piss on the spark plug if I thought I would do any good. Being a quote from that War Games movie with Matthew Broderick. I would do anything not to live another day the way that I felt the last day, where everything was the same and I was stuck in my limiting beliefs. I became willing participant with the universe to shift my entire consciousness in order to be able to transform like I have. And if that meant like me as a born Jew, or whatever, who rejected rejected faith in place. I use science, getting to a point where I was singing in a Catholic choir, and then you vice versa, we're singing in a Catholic choir, and bring it is two sides of the same coin. Getting to
Right.
Getting to this, I said a prayer the other day when I gotten back from vacation, and I said,
Excuse me, David, I'm on the radio.
I said that God,
Eu tô fazendo
I'm
programa
ready
no rádio.
to.
Já te ligo.
It's kind of an unusual situation. We're both in the
Excuse me.
office. What's
The thing is, that the danger of doing this show from your office is that you can't turn the office off while you're running the show. We were safer and better off at the studio, PS. But what can I tell you? Please
so?
excuse us.
I know. I said, God, I'm finally. I said training day's over with. I'm ready for you to put me in, and use me to my highest and greatest good. Put me in places that you would have me work your works, as well as use my gifts, talents, and experiences to their highest and greatest purpose. And whatever that's going to take, I'm willing to go through that to be a maximum service to anybody on this planet, my brothers and sisters. And I kept on saying that prayer for almost 45 minutes in bed, and I don't know where the prayer came from. I was just sleeping, and I woke, and I was like, it's just time to say something. And I just started to say that, and it just came out. And less than 24 hours later, I get a phone call from someone overseas and says, we don't know each other, but we started to talk, and kind of like the whole Wyatt Earp meets Doc Holliday. I don't know if you're familiar. They became pretty fast friends. Or I have a good friend who's now second in command of the World Bank. And when I laid eyes on him, it was like I had another brother on this planet. We started talking just like that. And then within a matter of hours, we had solved some global mysteries that had been perplexing us for a year and a half. And then I got another phone call from someone overseas the next day. And I mean, it was just a litany of things that lined up like an airline strip where the feeling that I got in my soul is, I've got this. Even if this guy and this whole team over there never pans out to do another thing with us, I had this feeling like there's always going to be a guy like that. In other words, and then all of a sudden, in another iteration, someone called us based upon our notice to witnesses, and on one of our cases, and said, "You guys were doing great, but you're kind of looking in the wrong place if you really want to know the rest of where the iceberg sits." So within the last week, we have gone, as you know, and then the next day we were on a phone call with somebody in. They were all over the world. And I was sitting on that phone call and I was like, wait, I woke up this morning, I didn't know that we were going to be meeting with all these people from all over the world. And that phone call went great, and we're going to hopefully support them here in a little bit. But I had that feeling that prayer was answered. And the prayer, oddly enough, was not for me. It was, it was for me to be able to experience giving my gifts, talents, and experiences, wisdom to the world as God would have it. But it was for the highest and greatest good of my brothers and sisters. And there's a math equation for that. And that if you're doing things for others, it equals happiness, joy, fulfillment. And take that one to the bank. So I have come a very far way in the last couple of weeks.
It sounds like it. It sounds like these 45 turns around, clicks around the sun, 45 years worth of clicks around the sun have really given you a different perspective and grown something within you.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, but no, that's not.
Always been there. Probably always been there. Just
no.
Giving.
It's that I ate more steak and chocolate over the last 2 weeks. That's it. That's what happened.
Actually, let me tell you. Okay, I'm glad we're on that topic too. I don't actually think that's funny. I mean, I don't actually think that that's unusual. I think that when you allow yourself pleasures, to indulge in pleasure, in relaxation, in fun, in delights, culinary or otherwise, it does actually do something to open you up to different things. So I think you're actually onto something. And while I'm not suggesting that you have steak and chocolate every single day, just because then it's not even that special anymore, or do it if you want. However, it's important to give yourself those things that are an absolute delight to you, because ultimately, and as people who can tell you who are exiting this planet every day, and if they could tell you, they would say, enjoy your life. And I know so many people who've had near death experiences that they always say the same thing. Have that piece of chocolate. You ain't being spared of anything. Again, take care of yourself. Be mindful and healthy, not to your detriment, but certainly keeping your own enjoyment and well-being in focus is actually one of the healthier, more mature things that we can do for ourselves, because we're just better. We're better for ourselves and we're better for everybody else.
Now, have the piece of chocolate cake, but don't force yourself to have a piece of chocolate cake. Like there's a half-eaten chocolate cake in this office right now. And I happen to know where it is. And I actually opened up the box today. But I said to myself, it's 1:00 in the afternoon. This is probably going to ruin my day. In an hour and a half, I'm going to be on the couch taking a nap, And
Probably.
I thought through the piece of chocolate cake at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
But it's also, my body was like, not right now.
Exactly. But this is the point. Have it when your body is on board with having it, and don't eat it out of the sheer habit of eating it. Just to say that, just because you have a half-eaten piece of cake there and, it should, whatever.
Our friend David just wrote in and he says, I'll have my cake and eat it too. I'm like,
That is hilarious. That is
But I was
hilarious.
going to say, David, if you're still watching, this chocolate cake is just like one of those kind of cakes you eat and it's like better than sex kind of thing,
Yeah, it's a
There's
pretty,
actually
well, I don't know
my
about that,
uncle
Jim, but
makes,
it's
my
pretty
uncle,
damn good.
I know. I get my uncle has a recipe for this called better than sex chocolate cake. And anyway, he if you tried the cake and you've had some sex, I don't know.
Actually, eat the cake before or after, or maybe, I don't know, whatever you're into during. Listen, my point is there are no rules.
Well, I always thought, when I first heard the term, I was actually a young teenager when my uncle first made this cake, and I was like thinking that thought of enticing. Anyway, it's like, well, here we are. I've heard that this is better than sex. The only way to know is if we do both, And as a young teenager, I thought that would, But listen, we've been talking about a few topics this week as far as this idea of do one thing.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
There's a book that I have read parts of, and it's
Written by
called
Mr.
One
Keller.
Thing. The One Thing. It's a bestseller. I highly recommend it. I've read more than just a little bit of it, but I've not completed the entire book like most of my personal development books. But I find that personal development books are more like text and manuscript. When you open it up, you'll find what
They
you need.
are actually. I'm reading one that I want to discuss afterwards that he says, you don't have to read this linearly, like straight to read whatever entices you, whatever calls you. Go ahead. We were talking about the one.
The book's premise, starts off, and if I don't know if you saw the movie City Slickers with Billy Crystal. And,
yes, it's one of my favorite. What do you guys
do you
don't
remember
know?
the one thing? Curly had one thing. Do you remember Curly?
Yeah.
And it's all about that one thing. So for the last 2.5 years, wow, since I've been on this transformational journey, and maybe 3.5 if you want to count when we started that first personal development program. I've had the concept is 100% is possible 100% of the time. Yes, and you can have a psychotic episode by attempting to do that because the universe though whittles you down. The universe will do it by itself, and you can fight it as long as you can, but the universe will whittle it down to one thing.
No, the universe yields to you what you believe. So what do you mean the universe whittles you down?
I mean, in other words, if you are on track with this transformation thing, I think that things shake out until you get to the most important things. Like even my piano playing until recently had shucking out, and I judged it, but I put so much work into the law firm, into my legal practice, into my legal writing and research that that's what was necessary for the time, for the things that I really, really want to create. Because when I get on the other side of this, this massive amount of work that we've been doing now, I'm starting to find room for the things that I start to enjoy, and the things that I want to do. But I also can find that I have the means to do them. When I've gotten the flow that we're creating in the office now, which we are light years of where we were, some months ago, and we have somehow, some way, done very well in managing the COVID crisis and the like. What I'm saying is, you saw in the beginning of the transformational journey, I was doing all kinds of things from the
it was like this. It was like squirrels, shiny object. It was like it was a transformational like glitter party. It was Yeah,
But it was,
and it's really,
you called it
it was
discovery.
part of it though. It was part of it. Part of the whole getting to know you and getting to know transformation.
And that led to different business ideas which failed, different iterations of different things, different people that were in the office and not in the office, different hobbies, different personal development programs. I mean, a lot of stuff. And I think that everybody who's done this walk gets to go through that and to figure out what works and what doesn't work. But as time has gone on, I'm realizing that, especially in this domain of career, I mean, maybe this is what I'm saying, is that you whittle the things down to one thing for a little bit, because you do that, you put 80% of your energy into that um, into that square that is going to give you the results to create flow in your life, the energy of abundance, flow, money. I don't know. It just seems that I've become a lot more comfortable knowing that I'm a stand for people to find their voice against the bullies in their life. I'm a stand for justice and the relentless pursuit of justice. I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, we never. I was sharing with you a story today. About something that, my niece, my 19-year-old niece, and one of the things, and I love and adore her. I've loved and adored her even before, she could talk. We just always been really close and really special person. One of the things that she says that reminds me of when I was younger too, was she loves to say, "I'm an adult." She's 19. So yeah, chronologically and legally, she's an adult. But it's such a funny thing for me to hear her say that, because to me, being an adult is so much bigger than just a number. There are people who are 60 and are still not adults. It has nothing to do with that. Like, it takes you a lifetime to grow into that adulthood, and you're always rediscovering yourself. You're always living so many different versions of your life in this one lifetime. I mean, if you think back to 3.5 years ago, Jay, where we sit today was an absolute impossibility from that perspective of 3.5 years ago, from that lens of 3.5 years ago, from that what was going on at the time, etc. But when you come from a perspective of creating a life and willing to discover things and willing to stay curious and willing to try things, and yeah, willing to suffer to a certain extent, or at least stick to your guns, and knowing that there's something greater for you, um, you're always growing and you're always expanding. You're always, your adulthood is ever growing and ever expanding. So much so that, like, when a 19-year-old tells me that they're an adult, I'm like, it makes sense, because I thought I was an adult too when I was 19. And there's depth and love and a whole beautiful human life, but there's so much more, right? That at the age of 19, you have no perspective of. You have no perspective that who you are at 19 is not who at all who you're going to end up being further on down the road. And I think that we get stuck a little bit with our identities, and we don't realize that it's always in flux. It's always expanding if we allow it and if we remain curious enough to do that. And one of the things that I started, when we started this particular conversation, is that I want to give you a lot of credit. You are a very open-minded person. And a lot of people don't know that about you, but you're very open-minded, and it's really interesting. I think it's allowed you to come around to all of the different things. Now, you're also a very stubborn person in many aspects as well, but you always manage to find your way. And I really want to acknowledge you for that, because for those of you who are in business, for those of you who live with people, for those of you who have friends or whatever, it's really important when you yourself are on a growth track to be around as many people as you can who are open-minded, who are willing to take chances and risks and grow. Now, Jay and I do not agree on everything. In fact, we don't agree on a lot of things, actually. But we agree always to remain in growth and to remain curious. And I think that for as many hardships as we've bellyached about on this show over the last year and a half, one of the things remains consistently true, that we are committed to our own personal growth. We are committed to a business. We are committed to a vision, and that's what helps us navigate everything. So the reason I put it in the context of like who you're around is because it makes your life easier and more joyful and more engaging and more interesting when you can be around people who are open-minded, even if they don't agree with you all the time. Because anyway, you don't learn anything if people agree with you all the time. Part of the spice of life is, people challenging the way you see things, people having different perspectives, um, having different points of view, people interrupting your patterns, doing all of these different things. But all of it leads to growth and growing up and
Well,
just
we're
being open.
tribal. We're
Sorry?
tribal by nature. Tribal.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you've everybody's heard, your parents or even maybe some of your friends say you're hanging out with the wrong crowd.
Oh, yeah. I love that one.
You know,
I've actually used that a couple times recently.
who you spend your time with is the number one indicator of where you are going with your life. And if you are around the narrow-minded people buying into the stories of it's not possible, this is the way things always have been, it's never going to change, why can't you just accept this and be happy with it? I always bring up the analogy of, or the story of the movie Rudy, when his father is visiting him at the Greyhound station, and he's about to go to Notre Dame to try to get in and play football. And his father says this story about his grandfather attempting to do something good for his family by buying a farm and a bunch of cows. And then he says that the cows all died because of some bacteria infection, and his dream led everybody in his family to heartache.
Mm.
And then he says, that's what you're doing here, Rudy. Your dream chasing is leading everybody around you to heartache. And then he says, there's nothing wrong with being a Rudy Rudiger. There's nothing wrong with being your dad's son. There's a lot of, he's like, there's nothing wrong with being a Rudiger. You can have a damn fine life. And I was like, the hell with that. And he
Yeah, that speech.
but the initial
It's
steps,
wrong
the
for
initial
you.
realization that the stuff that you're listening to is nonsense, everybody has, that's up to the individual. Your parents, your friends, your coworkers, never going to actually dictate who you spend your time with. It's an individual change. And when I went to my first personal development program, I didn't realize it at the time, of course. Everybody in that room was looking to level up their life. They were willing to spend 4 days looking at themselves in different exercises with other human beings and wanted a better life. Well, if when you're in a room with 100 people that's doing that, and we've been through some seminars that had 5,000 people screaming and yelling, that type of energy, that can propel you forward. Going to the local bar and sitting on the stool and complaining about why it's everybody else's fault that your life sucks, that's what you'll get. And it takes some courage to break out of the same old, and to go and to spend time with the people that live in possibility as opposed to inevitability. And it takes a lot of courage. And I'll say that for the last 3.5 years, our space has been filled with people that live in possibility, and those that don't, sometimes they don't last too long in our environment. And it's not because of anything that we do necessarily. It's just that they don't vibe in. We take a lot of risk. We take a lot of risk, and it's uncomfortable. And every single day, even
It's
today,
so
there was you wake up in the morning and you look up at your day, and you look at the appointments, the phone calls, the doors you get to walk through, the ones that I walked through today, and then you look like, wow, I just did all that. Most of the time for the last 20 years, you look up that things like, how the heck am I going to get up there? And that one that's happening at 2 o'clock, I'm really afraid of that one. And it's walking with people who are walking in courage, because then you build it. I had the saying, we are stronger together, and that's collectively of the people that you're hanging out with. And man, courage. I wrote about that on one of the Facebook posts that you didn't read.
oh, you know what? We thankfully we are so busy that I don't spend a lot of time on social media. But yeah, I think that's true. By the way, I have to say that you don't realize also how you influence people. I have two friends of mine who have been, one of whom I've known since I was 14 years old. And for a while, she and I were not necessarily vibing because I am so open-minded and she really was not. But I chose to keep on loving her, being committed to the relationship. I mean, this is someone who I've known since high school. So I, just always hung in there. Funny enough, she is now sort of touting some pretty amazing lines of, and being open to personal development and reading new books and really trying to expand her horizons. And lo and behold, she's been influenced, and I've been influenced by a lot of really amazing business things that she's done. So we all collaborate. Another friend of mine who I never thought would do anything hit me up the other day. Hey, I know I'm on hiatus and you're still working, but Tony Robbins is having a live and I'm going to hop on. I was like, wait, who is body snatching these people that never would have hopped onto a Tony Robbins thing only ever? But again, circling back to this whole how COVID has affected different people, it actually opened the door for this person to have their taste of personal development. And now they're throwing it down and taking risks and doing different things, putting themselves out there on social media in order to grow a new business that they're doing. So, it is important to be mindful of who you hang out with and who you spend time with and who you partner up with in business. Um,
Dancing is contagious.
Dancing is so contagious.
When someone has brave enough to actually go out on the dance floor, for the first one to go out on the dance floor, people are still chuckling, like, oh, look at that person, and secretly they're like, I want to be the first one out there. Dancing is contagious, and this personal development, living in possibilities, shifting your life, going after your dreams. Yeah, it's a little bit addicting and it's a little bit contagious, more than a little bit. It's like, I want me some of that. And when someone
Yeah.
sees that it's possible, I mean, you have outliers. You've heard this before, outliers, the people that
Yep.
go out on the dance floor first, and then they'll be on that dance floor for half an hour before anybody gets over there. But they're just doing it because they just love to dance, and they just don't care if anybody's really looking at them. As a matter of fact, the more people that look, the better. And after a while, people are like, there's no danger in going dancing, and I know dancing's a little bit of fun. I'm going to go dance. And even the people like that have called us recently said, I want me some of that freedom. I see what you're doing in these other cases, and I want you to support me in doing exactly what you've done for somebody else, because I deserve to be free of this, and I'm going to stand up for myself, because standing up for yourself, finding your voice, using your voice, that's contagious too. All of those things that we're afraid of, when you start seeing people out there doing it, jump in with those people that are doing it, whatever they're doing. If it looks like it's a bunch of fun and it could support you in your life, that's what we've done on this show for the last year and a half. Is, hey, most weeks, probably if we go back, Janine, and look at half our videos, we showed up like, oh man, this week
No,
sucked.
and what a lot of you don't know, because Jay and I are close, and we have like we have a business relationship, obviously, but we have like a family kind of relationship also. So what happens is, what most of y'all don't know is that we didn't even speak to each other on the way up to the studio because of all of the stress and tension going on at the office. And we often didn't speak to each other on the way down. In fact, there were a couple times where I wish I could have thrown myself from the car. And then we evolved to not even driving to the studio together just because there was so much tension. But at the end of the day, here we are, and everything has its ebb and flow. What Jay and I do have in common is that we don't quit very easily. So, things come around, and you grow and you learn, and you experience a lot of different things. So yeah, a lot of the shows were like, oh my God, because it's all authentic, it's all real, it's all what we're going through at any given time. And that's what, Jay and I always said, that momentum mindset is about personal development in real time, before we make it to the stage and are all shiny and have got an entourage and
A lot of,
security
we saw the people on stage,
right
and
now.
they've been there for a while, and they've done it, they've made it, and they had all these catchy phrases and all these shiny clothes and all this loud music and people jumping up and down. Except for the first personal development program we went to, which was like a bunch of crayons and stuff like that, which by the way was like
It was awesome.
it's like the best one ever. It's like, um, but the man standing on stage for a period of time, or a woman standing on stage and looking over everybody, must be thinking to themselves about these days of what does it look like when you've decided to cut up your credit cards, go to another country where you don't know the currency, don't know the language, don't know the customs, because you never lived there before. And that land is abundance, and that land is freedom, and that land is fun and joy, fulfillment. Those aren't emotional homes that I lived in growing up until I was 41 years old. I mean, and until recently, it's even though you decided to change your life, it's going to take a long time before you accept that you've changed your life, and a little more
Yep.
time after that, you start enjoying where you now live.
Mhm.
Because when you live wherever you live, even if it's a hellhole, it's still home. You deserve more, but you're comfortable there, and comfort beats out the pain of change. So as we've gone through this, I do remember those days where we weren't even talking to each other on the way up. Mostly because you were late, and I was on time.
Mostly because you're a spaz.
But all of this takes time, and so I don't know if you experienced this lately, and maybe this Ray Estacia, it has done some amazing work with us, because even though the issues are still the same, the clients and the opposing counsels and the work is still the same. It's now more like the feeling of, okay, this is my sets for the day, this is the work, and I'm taking it as in a neutral fashion, and almost now where it's a challenge, and sometimes it's like, oh, this could be fun today. That thought. Remember, we used to have some young entrepreneurs come into the office, and the young entrepreneurs used to have this term, plug and play. Plug and play. In other words, we have this system set up, and I have my business partners. Every 22-year-old has a business partner, that does something, but they have to talk to their partners, because I can't do anything without my partner. Like, all right, you have your partner, but the idea was, we don't have to do any of the work. We don't have to go through all the stuff that you're going through. we just gonna plug and play, and everything's programmed. It's like a preset thing, and I'm like, are you buying a franchise? Because even that's not plug and play. We have seen a lot of that when we first started doing our business and thinking that we were going to support young entrepreneurs and startups, and we do still some of that. But there's no prosthetic for the process. It is the process.
It is the
Falling in
process.
love with the process, even though it's the most difficult thing that you've ever done before. And I think that
Yeah.
anybody who's ever played a musical instrument, maybe you can relate to this. Even you as a singer, you start learning notes, reading notes, and getting things done. At first it could seem a little bit easy, but then you get into the actual mastery of it, and it takes time. And I think more than anything else in the last month to 2 months, I have settled into that ease of, okay, this is going to take time. I don't know how much, but I'm in love with the process.
Mm-hmm.
Those moments, those moments are the worth it moments. Well, okay.
Agree with you.
We got some news last week that would have put me into a tailspin that I don't know I would have recovered. I said, okay. For about 15 seconds, it stung. And then 2 days later, we get an email like, no, just kidding. You're good. you know?
Totally.
I don't know if we should tell the whole world about this, but you were exposed to COVID. So we just did. And
Yes. Okay. Thanks, Jay. Yes. Actually, it was super scary. And I realized too, I was sharing with Jay the responsibility that I felt and the weight of on my shoulders. By the way, I'm COVID negative, thank God. But I have to tell you guys that I really was taken aback to how incredibly scary it is to possibly have something that you could transmit to another human being and either have a few things going on. One of them being you could give them COVID and they could exhibit symptoms as mild as the sniffles or nothing. Or you could kill them because that's how the COVID presents in their body. That was just something really, really, really freaky to me. And, I quarantined the heck out of myself. I wouldn't go near anybody. I wouldn't do anything. I stayed away from Costco, my number one favorite place in the world. I mean, it was devastating, to be honest with you. That in and of itself is terrible. But so you were saying I was exposed to COVID. And when I got the results that we were negative, my entire family, we were like, whoa! I mean, it's such a feeling of elation and freedom. It was really good. And a reminder that your health is your wealth and to be really mindful of your neighbor.
my fiance is watching. Wow, that's hi baby.
Oh my God, hello, Jenny. That's awesome.
We are certainly grateful that you didn't come positive for COVID, and I guess we should take a few minutes to just say, hey, everybody, to stay safe. It's real.
Yeah.
It's especially here down in South Florida. I mean, no one's coming for us. Another personal development premise is no one's coming for you. You're the hero of your own story. So that being the case, take the measures that you think are necessary to save you and your family a bunch of heartache and spare yourself. I'll give an analogy right now because my fiance and I we did go hiking in the mountains, and one of my favorite places on earth is this place called Chimney Tops Trail, right outside of Pigeon Forge in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Side note: if I found hillbilly heaven in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, they had like this one strip where they had upside down houses and hey, what's up, Joey? Outside Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, there's this trail, Chimney Tops Trail. The last mile, the last 0.83 miles goes up the height of the Empire State Building in 0.83 miles. So it's almost like straight up the entire
That's
way.
amazing. Wait, is that what you hiked this time when you were on holiday?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
At the end of the trail, they closed down the section that I really wanted to do, which was the mountain, the rock climbing. And there's this big sign and a gate at the top of this mountain that says, "Don't go any further, to spare yourself and your family and friends." So we stopped, and there's a little picnic area right next to where this fence was, and so I was a little upset, but I accepted it. We had our lunch, and then here comes this guy from this direction of this gate, and then he's looking around. I'm like, "Where did you come from?" And he's like, "No, I went the whole thing to the rocks." And I'm like, he's like, "Yeah, you just go around that gate." I'm like, "Come on, honey, let's go." So we went around the gate, and then we got to this point where I could see about 2,500 feet down on one side, and same about 2,500 feet down on the other side. I'm just walking on this thing about 3 feet like this, and we're climbing over trees that had been burnt down in the fire of 2016.
Wow.
And then it started to rain. And so I, of course, wanted to proceed further. No, I didn't. I was like, I know that I know that if it's going to be slippery rock, I'm going to fall, because I did fall about 14 years ago when I was on the same rock and it started to rain. So for the protection of myself and my fiance, more for her,
Lord,
more for
of
her.
course.
She was actually brave enough. She's like, "Let's keep going." I'm like, "No, no, no, no." So, but we were both scared because it started to rain when we were up there. Here's the thing: is that I get it. If I would have climbed the rock, there's a good chance, more likely than not, how about absolutely, that I'd get hurt or die. Hence what the sign said: "Don't move past this sign," which we did. But we only went as far as until our internal check said, "Nah, we're going to turn around." And the same thing goes here. It's like there's no one going to be there on the top of the mountain with you, no matter what you're doing. The federal government, the state government, it's not happening. It's going to come up to you and only you to do the things that you know are necessary to protect yourself and others. And the same thing in life. There are chances to take, to be sure, and there's discernment to, okay, I'm not going to climb that 700-foot rock ridge because it's raining. Now, going back to your discussion about adults and not adults, you're absolutely right. I just heard about we just had a phone call about a 73-year-old man throwing trash on his
Yeah.
neighbor's yard, running over
Creation.
his swale, and doing all of these things and spraying him with a water hose in South Florida, which I don't need to add, because I think if I just said those previous three things, you could pretty much assume it was South Florida. But, age is truly a state of mind. But the word adult does mean something. And the word adult is a verb.
Mm-hmm.
And it's time for there to be a few of the adults to come back in the room and do what's right.
Yeah.
And support safety. You're not going to be able to force people off the mountain, because there's going to be people that are climb and there's going to be people that die. But at least the messaging should be, let's do our best to protect our brothers and sisters, because that's really what we're here for.
Yes, 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 and that is one of the things that I realize. Anyway, that I'm super. I have a very big heart, and I always think of the other, probably to my detriment more than I think of myself. However, and with the whole COVID thing, it just really did. And I have an elderly father; he's 80. And just the thought that being around him could make him ill and I could be responsible for his death was just like unnerving to the max to me. It was just absolutely, or that I could harm anybody was just something that I was not okay with. It was scary. It really brought into perspective too. Also, my own ethics and morals. It really sort of like extra sharpen them to really, I'm just a person that is not okay with doing any harm in any way, shape, or form to other people. I'm not okay with that. I will not be throwing, I will not be a 73-year-old lunatic throwing garbage on your lawn because it's harmful to you. And I'm not about it. It's not what's driving this bus here. So it's kind of an interesting thing. And adulting it can be a beautiful word, but it does encompass something rather larger than just a number, right? So 1973, not quite there yet. And still growing into it all the time, every day.
So please, you know,
Do your
I
part.
have over this transformational journey made a habit of washing my hands after I left the bathroom.
God.
Now,
Oh.
wait a second. I'm talking about
Why
the
are
last
you
three,
repeating
the last 3 years. Listen to me. No, listen to me. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. And if I have a 3.5 year ongoing thing here, I'm doing okay. Okay, because I'm admitting this now.
No,
But I do that for two reasons, though. One is for me, but more is it for you and everybody else. When I'm touching anything else, it's like, hey. So please, just think about it. Just consider this. Just consider wearing it because I wear it for you.
right.
That's it.
Right.
That's
I
my
like
2
that.
cents.
I wear it for you. I love that. And by the way, though, the thing with the washing of the hands, what really like funny, not funny, when this whole crisis started and you couldn't find soap, I was like, how many Americans were not washing their hands exactly? Like, oh no, that we were going around with such piggy people. Like it's frightening, actually, really concerning. So, but thank you for washing your hands for my safety and yours. Appreciate it. And it's not a big deal. And it could, really support you and somebody else. So, and that's all I'll
Happy
say.
birthday to me for the next couple of weeks. It's good to see everybody again.
Right. July. It is J Farrow month.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Be well. Stay safe.
Wait. Hold on. I'm still.
Thank you for listening to the Momentum Mindset Show. For your hosts, Jay and Janine, we'll see you here next week. Thank you for being real, authentic, and honest.
If you'd like to reach us, please contact us on our Facebook page, The Momentum Mindset Show, or on our office phone line, which is 954-559-6987.
We are stronger together.
And remember, keep going.